Morgan, you are originally from the Bay Area, Milpitas roots, San Jose State, I
Yeah,
think, and you've been a huge
yeah,
Sharks fan for so very long, even to the point that your This Is Sharks territory made the trip down with you to Southern California when you moved, and you had that outside your window of the house you lived in Altadena. So, big time Sharks fan if we could start there.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, going back into the 90s, my dad got me into hockey. His friends got him into the Sharks when they were brand new, and so it's sort of like trickled down through our family and into my kids, and it's just a big part of who we are, and our sort of family gathering around the TV to watch the Sharks play. It's a big thing for us.
Well, and I love that that connects us, but I hate what has brought us here together today. That house in Altadena that you and your family were living in, still standing, but now
Right.
uninhabitable because of the terrible fires in Southern California. And I think we should also be very mindful here. There were multiple fires, and a lot of focus is on Pacific Palisades, but in Altadena, there was something equally as tragic. And so give us the latest of your situation and what happened.
Well, we're safe now, and that's what really matters. And like many people who were affected by the fire, we're sort of in a very temporary situation right now, and that's okay. We're working on a more permanent living situation at the moment, so we're optimistic about the future. But the state of Altadena, the town where I lived, and the Pacific Palisades, there were even more fires than those two that night.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty tragic, honestly, and it was a terrifying night. Essentially, you know, got the kids to safety and understood that this fire was something different. Wildfires happen, but this one, the winds were so fast, and you know, we decided we were going to go back and we were going to try to fight the fire because we knew that there wasn't enough firefighters there at the time to do that. And by the time we got back, um, it was not a good scene. Everything was on fire. The trees were falling down left and right. Like up to a certain point, you realize like you're obeying the rules of the road, and then you pass a threshold where like, wait, there's no rules now. There's everyone's doing everything. Nobody's obeying anything because the trees are falling down, the power lines have fallen down. You're going to have to drive over the power lines to get to the other threshold, and there's black walls of smoke, and you have no idea what's on the other side. So you just power through it just to get back to our home and to try to save it. But all the water had been turned off, rightfully so, to divert to the firefighting efforts. But you just don't think about that in the moment, right? Like you're absolutely panicked and you're focused on the task at hand, which in our minds was to save the home and to save our neighborhood. But by the time we got there, it was already up in flames, all of it. And you know, you're running, you're running to the house. Feels like you got 50-pound sandbags around your ankles because of the smoke. And the winds are still going. You're being hit by like in the shoulder, and you realize like it's a roof shingle, like like an old wooden roof shingle that was on fire. It's just like hitting you as you're going. Bust through the house and realize like we're just gonna have to grab what we can. You know, things that are absolutely irreplaceable. Stuff that belonged to my dad, things that my kids had made. Family heirlooms. And you just get out of there. But it was a scary moment. It was a scary sight, and seeing the state of Altadena now is it's like the corpse of a community.
Mm.
Like you drive through and it's a sea of burnt trees and just chimneys. That's it. They're starting to level the sites, which is good. Progress is being made so that people can start to rebuild. But um, I mean, like the community that we fell in love with, we've been there for 10 years. It's not going to look the same. Let's put it that way. And the community is fractured, but it's also risen in a really sort of beautiful way. But it's just um, a massive turning point in the history of this area, which is already extremely rich. Unfortunately, this is a bad chapter.
So your house still standing, but as we mentioned, you can't live in it. And that's a whole process, and that's a whole different interview. It could be a while before you even figure that out. One thing, though, is you have returned to that house, and you did see what survived from that house. I go back to that shark sign in the window, which led to a discovery of something that firefighters left at the property of your house. So among all the other things going on and everything else going through your mind, they left you a note, the firefighters did, at least some that were at your house. What did that note say?
We didn't really know for sure what had survived until we saw it with our own eyes. And the first time we saw it with our own eyes, and I walked up to the front steps, there was this thing, it's a sticker under a rock on my front steps. And I looked at it, I'm like, what is this?
Those are hockey sticks. Two. Yeah.
Those are hockey sticks. It says Division of Hockey. And on the back it says, fellow Sharks fan, go Sharks, Cal Fire Hockey Club. And I'm going to lose it now, but like I lost it, right? Like at that moment, you know, it's like everything sort of came crashing down. And it's like this little simple gesture of firefighters from the Department of Forestry, from Cal Fire, who saw this and or saw that shark sign in my window and decided to just leave this little spark of hope, you know. And like amongst all this chaos where everybody is suffering, it's hard to like feel like an individual because everyone is going through this,
right?
And there's so much pain. And the fact that like we felt very seen in that moment, it may not have been a big gesture to them, but like they all came out, they're heroes. We watched them with our own eyes as we're evacuating, we're running away, like they're going towards the flames, towards the wing. And you know, to think that like these men and women who put their lives on the line to save us and our livelihood, like that they recognize you individually for this thing that is like shouldn't belong there.
The sign in the window you're talking about?
Yeah. Like that shark sign shouldn't belong there.
In Ducks and Kings territory.
Ducks territory in Kings. Yeah, exactly. Right. And then I had the audacity to put my, you know, Bay Area pride in the window. I might as well like put like a La Vic's bottle of orange sauce next to it too, you know.
Good reference.
Like, you know, it's just like, hey, this is who we are. Take it or leave it. Yeah. And they were just like, yeah, man. It felt like a big hug, you know. And yeah, that was before we even walked in.
Jeez.
And saw that, like, you know, kids' toys still there, books still there, like stuff that in the panic we never grabbed but regretted not taking, still there. The kicker though is that we can't touch any of it.
Yeah.
Like we can't repossess those things and bring them back into our lives because they're toxic. And so we need to go through the process of figuring out what is and isn't salvageable and try to get everything clean. Yeah.
To be clear, we're not here to suggest that those firefighters ultimately saved your house specifically because of that shark sign on the window. But I think the overall point is that connection was made, and they were probably so satisfied to see it standing, to leave you that note, to know that you have never met each other, but you have that common bond of, it has nothing to do with life and death. It's just a pleasure of a like hockey team that you have that bond. It's just, I don't know. I find that absolutely amazing. Out of all the connections that could be made, That was one that was made in that moment. You and so many of your neighbors are in this process, and us in Northern California, we saw what happened. And we're aware of the charity game that just took place down at crypto.com. And so we're understanding, but I don't think that we can't understand the depths of what you're still going through is my point. So if you could close it out by just helping us understand that this is not a thing that's said and done and will be fixed by tomorrow. What do we need to know up here?
What I think, I don't want to speak for my whole community, but what I think would be helpful for everyone to understand is that these fires in LA, it's kind of easy to look at the coverage and be like, there's a lot of celebrities' homes and multi-million-dollar homes in the Palisades and everything like that, and like it's a pointless effort to try to compare tragedies. Like suffering is suffering,
Right.
you know, and like there's people in the Palisades who live in multi-million-dollar homes that like bought them when they were a nickel, you know, and all of their wealth and equity is in their home, and they've got nothing. Same thing in Altadena. Altadena is a beautiful, diverse, like historically significant, like community of hardworking folks, and we lost everything. You know, we as a community lost so much, and you know, there's a very long road ahead for all of the different communities in LA County that were affected by the fire. And it's going to be a massive cleanup effort on behalf of the government. The Army Corps of Engineers and the EPA are here literally scraping sites down, like removing history with shovels and taking it away. And that history is being erased. And I don't think I can try to wrap my mind around that, wrap my mind around like why some buildings survived and some didn't. The fire behaves erratically, but all we can do now is like try not to question those things and try to figure out the road ahead. And it's going to be extremely difficult for some people. There's people who are still living in shelters. There's like, I don't think my situation is great, but it's not nearly as bad as some others. And it's hard not to feel, you know, a degree of guilt. And a lot of people are dealing with that. So there's a mental strain of the people who lost everything, the people who didn't lose everything, but still have to cope with that. And just trying to find like the moments of fun and joy that you had in like every little, you know, everyday little moments, right? Like finding ways to have those make you happy again.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be tough too, because I can for sure speak for everyone when I say that we're all dealing with day in, day out tasks that equate to basically a second job.
Yeah.
You know, I just trying to figure out the recovery part of this process now is going to take years. I mean, just years to do it. There's no, you know, you can't sugarcoat that at all. It's going to be tough, right?
You're
But
right.
I think as the community rises up and as that sort of support expands out, you know, the fires are done. Like they're gone, they're out. Like thank God they're done. But this thing isn't over, right? Like people still need help.
Yeah.
And people still need happiness and support. And I think that even just like spreading a little bit of joy and support goes a long way.
I appreciate you for sharing with me and with us what's definitely the hardest thing in your life so far. I don't think there's any question about it. And we're with you. We're thinking about you, and we're going to keep in touch with you. And when you're ready to come back up to Northern California, I think the Sharks are going to take care of you. Morgan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brodie. Go Sharks.